I'm Paul Comfort, and you're listening to Transit Unplugged. On today's episode, we talk to the CEO of Orlando's transit system called the LYNX. Of course, Orlando is often called the happiest place in the world with Walt Disney World there, but LYNX Transit serves all of Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties, and Edward Johnson, the CEO there, is doing much more than just providing fixed route transit. He's got a whole new take on mobility management, how they're serving all the citizens in their region. You'll hear about all of that and more on this edition of Transit Unplugged.
What does it mean to be a successful public transit agency? What are you doing to lead the way? It's time to learn from the top transit professionals in North America. This is Transit Unplugged with your host, Paul Comfort.
Hi, I'm Paul Comfort, and you're listening to Transit Unplugged. And today we're down in not really sunny Florida. It's rainy today, but we're in Florida, and I'm with Edward Johnson, the CEO of LYNX. LYNX is the Orlando transit system and also the surrounding areas. Ed, do you go by Ed or Edward?
I go by whatever you call me. As long as you don't call me late for dinner,
there you go.
I'm
you
good.
and me both, brother. All right, so Ed's here with me, and he's got so much going on in Orlando. But first, I really wanted to talk to you about your career. People are always interested in how did you become a CEO? So how did you become the CEO?
Well, you know what? My story is a little different from most people that I run into.
Okay.
Not only just the transit leaders in this community, but, my whole story about my professional career is just totally different. I did not dream of being in transit. I graduated from college. Well, actually, I was working on my master's degree, and I started working for a regional planning commission.
Okay.
And how I started working with them, I did a class internship, and they said, "Would you like a job?" I said, "I don't have a job, so I'll take a job." So that was the first thing.
Okay.
And so I did a whole myriad of things working for the Regional Planning Commission, one of which was transit and economic development and community development. And so while I was working with the Regional Planning Commission, I get a call from my hometown, Birmingham, Alabama, and they said, "Hey, we would like for someone to come over who can help us really to develop our grants management program and also our contract administration, because they outsourced all of their services. Do you want a job?" I said, I could move back home. My father was getting older.
Yeah.
My parents were in their late 40s when I was born. So my parents, were of quite of age by that point.
Because you're only like 26 or 27
Well,
now, right?
I wish that was the case. So with that, since my father's getting older, it's probably best that we come into one household.
Yeah.
And so it was an opportunity. And so great. So a second job, wasn't necessarily looking for it. Yeah, just fell into it. And then like I said, I worked for the transit agency in Birmingham, Alabama. And then I went to an APTA conference in Orlando.
Okay.
And they had a couple positions open. I said, well, you know what? I like both of those positions, but that's the job that I want right there.
Really?
And I got a call back, and they offered me the job.
Wow.
Yeah. So I worked in the operations department at LYNX in Orlando, and I worked there for 13 years. And then I get a call from MARTA in Atlanta and saying, "Hey, we're creating this new position, this chief administrative officer position. Would you be interested in it?" Yeah, because I wanted to go to a large agency, wanted to go to an organization that had rail, and they were nice enough to extend me an offer there.
Who was CEO at the time?
It was Keith Parker.
Okay,
Keith. Yeah, the legendary Keith Parker, and I learned so much from him. Great man to learn from.
Yeah.
And so when the position of CEO at LYNX opened up, of course I got some calls because actually my home was still in Orlando while I was working in Atlanta. Okay. My family stayed in Orlando.
Long commute,
yeah. My wife was. I don't like to use the word terrified of the Atlanta traffic, but she was not happy about that. Yeah. So, and just as we had decided that we've got to come back under one roof and not commuting back and forth. Yeah. The job for the CEO position in Orlando had opened up, and
That's awesome, man.
And there I was.
It's like your life has been charmed, blessed.
Yes, it's been blessed
Yeah.
in so many ways, and I'm so grateful and appreciative of everything that have come my way. And I like to say that God looks out for fools and babies, and so He has really looked out for me over these past 20 some odd years in my professional career.
And you've been there for 3 years now, CEO?
Well, it's 2 years. It'll be
Okay.
2 years in this coming up May.
Gotcha.
And so, but it was like I had never left because
Yeah.
I had been there for 13 years. I was very familiar with all of the board members. I've been knowing them all, forever.
Sure, yeah.
And so it was as if just coming back home.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So and we've had a great time over these nearly 2 years now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about traffic in Atlanta versus Orlando, but Orlando traffic's pretty rough now too, isn't it? Sometimes.
Oh yes, it
Yeah.
can be for people who live far out.
Right.
But I'm the type of person, I believe in work, play, and live within the same general
Yes.
areas.
Yeah.
So I generally can get to work within 7 to 10 minutes.
That's good.
And so
Wow.
we don't have to deal with a lot of
Yeah.
the congestion now. We just take the local road to get into work every day. So so it works well for my family.
Yeah, well, and it's a good segue to talk about transit because
Yes.
that's the power to get cars off the road, right?
That's correct.
So,
yes.
of course, you're serving Orlando, Florida, which is the happy Disneyland, all that, the happiest place in the world. But isn't it the
Absolutely.
number one tourist attraction in America or something like that?
It's getting there.
Yeah.
If
That
it's
whole
not
Orlando
the number
area,
one,
it's
but
one
it
of the
is some
top
top.
ones.
Yeah, it's actually one of
Yeah.
the top ones.
So tell us
And
about what it's like to run a transit system in a big resort area like that.
It's fun.
Okay.
And, and I look for the fun in everything that I do.
I do too.
And
That's
it's,
great.
Yeah,
It's a good philosophy. Keeps you young, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it helps you to be innovative. It helps you to be
There you go.
creative.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say it's fun because you're coming across people from all around the world.
Yeah.
And they're bringing their perspective of their transit agency to ours and comparing them. And although many of them are coming from Europe where they have some very dynamic and bodacious transit systems, but they're saying, ooh, we really like how your system operates.
That's good.
We love the interaction with the bus operators and the friendliness of the other customers who are saying, okay, yeah, hey, you're new in town. Hey, take this route. And you make the connection with this one, with this
Okay.
particular bus. And,
Right.
and so it's just fun.
It keeps that kind of friendly that they're getting at the resorts.
That's right.
You're gonna
That's
keep
right.
That on your transit system.
Absolutely.
So tell us about your transit system, some of the scope of what it is.
So we operate over 300 buses,
Okay.
and we operate nearly 24 hours a day.
Okay.
We have certain routes that operate 23 and a half hours every single day except on Sunday nights. And we have about 1,100 employees. We primarily operate fixed route, paratransit, and van pool.
Okay.
And what we're looking at now, we're restructuring our whole operation. Now, we are using the philosophy of mobility management.
Okay.
We started off on our paratransit side first, and we wanted to redirect the service delivery for our customers who are ambulatory. So if you're an ambulatory customer and you have the mental capacity to navigate through the system, you don't necessarily have to be picked up with a paratransit vehicle.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
They're so expensive to operate.
That's right.
Half the people are ambulatory.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And so we've now incorporated Uber, Lyft, and taxi cabs to deliver those trips for us.
And how do you do that? How do you integrate them into the system?
Well, first we identify whether or not they're ambulatory.
Right.
And then we segregate out those who does not have the capacity to get through the system, who don't need a whole lot of assistance.
Okay.
And then we work with those
do you do that
customers.
with functional eligibility testing, or how do you do that?
Well, we do functional eligibility testing just to get them certified to be on the system as a whole.
But that helps you also determine if they can go in this pool that can use these.
That's right.
EMCs.
That's
Okay.
right. And the uniqueness of our paratransit service in Orlando is that we don't merely comply with the ADA regulation of just providing services for people who live within 3/4 of a mile of our fixed route.
Okay.
We provide services for our paratransit customers throughout our entire service area.
Really?
So all 3 counties,
Okay.
no matter where you are, even if you live in the most southern portion where houses are 5 and 6
Right.
acres or greater, and
You
sometimes
just blanket the whole area.
Absolutely.
So what are your counties? Polk and what else?
No, it's Orange, Osceola, and Seminole
Oh,
counties.
okay, all right.
Yeah, and so with such an enormity of service area,
Mm-hmm.
and so our paratransit users are much more expanded than some
Right.
of the other
It
transit
might just be
agencies.
seniors or
Yes,
right.
yes. It's not in relation to the fixed route system
I
at
gotcha.
all.
Okay.
And so,
So
we
once you've got
transport.
them in those groups, and how do you get them to use the Uber and the Lyft?
Right,
and
right,
and-
right. Well, for some of our customers who might be a little bit older than others, a little bit more senior, who may
Right.
not be comfortable
Okay.
with getting into an Uber or Lyft, and they are used to a LYNX vehicle coming to pick them up,
Yes.
we've
Keep
grandfathered
them
them
up.
in.
Okay.
But anybody new coming into the system, we're going to place them in an Uber or Lyft or
Is
a
that
taxi.
right?
Yes, yes. And if they can
Wow.
navigate it. But for our customers who
Yeah.
have been depending on the system for 20, 25 years, and they just not comfortable with that change,
Right.
we're not going to force them.
Now you have a contractor that runs your paratransit, right?
Yes, yes. We use MV
Right.
Transportation.
And my buddy Chris York there.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Chris,
We
great
love
guy.
Chris
Yeah.
York. Yeah, wonderful person, and he's the right fit for our community. Again, we try to have fun, and we want to have compassion and empathy,
Right.
and that's what he displays day in and day out.
So how do they interact with the Lyfts and the taxi cab companies?
Well, they don't.
Oh, okay.
We actually LYNX now schedules the trips.
Oh,
so
okay.
so our customers call in and say they want to be picked up at their home and take to work or doctor's office,
Mm-hmm. Right.
grocery shopping, whatever the case might be.
And you
then
decide where they go.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So we basically have become a broker.
Okay,
And
that's
we're-
interesting.
Yes, and we want to know what is the best way to deliver that service. And that's how we get into this whole mobility management.
Yeah.
Using
So
the right
there you go.
solution
Yeah, yeah.
to meet the transportation need of our
Interesting.
customer.
So like how many daily trips do you have in your
We
paratransit?
do nearly 2,000 trips per day.
Okay.
And
the
so that's a lot.
It is. So
Yeah.
the percentage of them that goes to your traditional provider versus the new ones is
well,
what would you say?
and so we just started this in December.
Okay.
Right now, we're just above 20% of our trips are delivered with a transportation network company,
Yes.
if you will. And we believe that we're going to definitely get a lot higher, but we're working our way up. But what we have seen since we've instituted our mobility management program, our on-time performance have gone from the low 80s to the low 90% on-time performance. So we're at about 92% on-time performance.
And how do you track the OTP, the on-time performance of your non-traditional providers?
Right. That one is a little bit trickier now
Okay.
because we don't have the automatic vehicle locators on it.
Right.
But you know
Will
what?
Lyft give you that data?
Well, in some cases we can go in and track it
Okay.
individually,
Okay.
but we hadn't gotten to that point.
Yeah.
But what we've heard though, wow, we really love that service.
Of course.
So that
Like you're getting a limo to come to your house and pick
that's
you up.
right.
Who wouldn't like that?
That's right. So
Yeah.
so when you have a vehicle that's coming to pick you up and it's a little bit more flexible, it's not stopping for other people
Yes.
as much. And
Right.
sometimes there may be some shared ride opportunities, but it's not where that vehicle is being caught up in the type of congestion that our larger vehicles are,
Yes.
because they're not as nimble and not as flexible
Yeah.
as a sedan is.
What about scheduling? So ADA requires 1 to 7 days in advance. Do you allow same-day reservations?
Well,
for
right
the
now we're just doing
TNCs, or you use the old rules?
we're using the old rules right
Okay.
now, because what we want to do is make sure that we're not treating anyone differently
That's
than
true.
the other.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So everything that we do, the fares remain the same.
Okay.
All we're doing is just using a different technology.
Gotcha.
That way, no one can come back and say that
Right.
we're giving one person a benefit that the others are not benefiting from.
So your one-way fare on your fixed route, isn't that $2?
Yes, that's
And-
correct.
And so what do you charge for paratransit?
It's twice
Right.
the amount.
Okay, so $4.
But again, we also have another funding solution in the state of Florida. It's called the Transportation Disadvantage. So the state of Florida helps offset some of our costs for people with disabilities.
Right.
And that cost is actually it's increased just a little bit more based upon the zone. Because
Okay.
again, because
Oh,
we're
right.
not,
You're such a big territory.
right. And so
Yeah.
as you go out a little bit further, the cost graduates up a nominal
Sure.
fee. Yeah.
So are you seeing this new approach? I mean, one of the things I speak about all over the country is that the cost of paratransit growing 6% a year, 8% is unsustainable.
Yes, that's correct.
Is this helping you manage those costs?
Absolutely, yes. So of the 20% of trips that we have delivered through TNCs, we've seen that our costs were cut in half if we opposed to our traditional way of delivering the services. So with you taking the trips off of our paratransit vehicle and making those numbers a lot more manageable, because it's one thing to try to put a number of trips scheduled on one vehicle, and if you have such as a vehicle accident or it runs into traffic congestion because of another type of accident, or a customer has an accident on the vehicle, it has a ripple effect down the line, and that throws everybody off.
Yes,
and you're
that's
scrambling to reschedule those
Yes,
trips.
believe
And
me, I've done that personally.
Right. So now
Yeah.
it's a little bit more manageable. And I think there is a breaking point where it's a sweet spot on the number of trips that any entity can try to transport
Yes.
at a particular time.
You're right. That's
Yeah.
good. So that's where you're testing out this, and then eventually you'll try to do it on the fixed route side too?
Well, yes, and actually, what we're going, we call this LYNX Forward.
Okay,
and
there you go.
our team came up with this name.
And it's LYNX.
That's
for people who are
correct.
looking
Yes.
for, like the cat.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so what we, when I talked to the staff, I said, we can't continue to operate our fixed route system the way that we've always operated. Just like we're making changes in paratransit, we've got to do the same thing on the fixed route side. And so we did what we call our route optimization study. And we want to understand, well, first of all, we've been operating these same routes since the 1970s. Let's just throw that map out and start all over and say, what are our real traffic patterns? And then understand the placement of our bus stops. Is that slowing the vehicle down? Also, understanding that we really don't need a 40-foot bus or a 60-foot bus operating at 9 o'clock at night on these routes. So now we need to start looking at micro transit in certain areas so that we're not spending $90 an hour to that's operating a bus, and you're probably getting 1, 2, 3 passenger trips per hour.
Yeah.
When we can just use a smaller vehicle, getting a third party to come in and deliver those services. So
Very smart. Yeah, that's really good. How you're being nimble.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So we're having fun with it, and we're going to be presenting our plan, hopefully, to our board of directors the end of this summer, saying, "Hey, this is how we envision the new system," and also we want to keep our fixed route buses, our larger buses, our 40-foot and 60-foot buses along the major thoroughfares and not diverting those vehicles back into the neighborhoods. Here in the state of Florida, we're not operating on a grid zone like we do in New York and DC and places like that. Really here in the state of Florida, most especially in Orlando, the network systems were built for cars.
Right.
They were not built for transit.
Right.
So now what we've got to do is not try to deliver services like they do in the Northeast. We've got to figure out, how do we really deliver services in Central Florida?
Sounds like you're figuring it out.
Yes,
you've got a great plan.
Yeah.
So it's a good segue to talk about your governance, because you mentioned your board of directors. So
Yes,
tell us,
yes.
how are you funded and how are you governed?
Okay, so let's start with our board of directors first. We have 5 board members.
All right.
And now that's a little different from a lot of other
That's
places.
small.
When I first went to LYNX back in the year of 2000, we had 11 board members.
Okay.
And then there was a redistribution of the governing structure and came up with only 5 board members. And the structure of those board members are the mayor of Orlando, the mayor of Orange County, the chairman of Osceola and Seminole counties, and the secretary of DOT for that particular region.
That's
And
your
that-
board members?
yes, those are-
Wow,
yeah.
you got some heavy hitters, man.
Yes.
You got the real power brokers
That's right. So when we come, we got to come correct.
there you go. But when they make a
Yes.
decision, they can help you implement it.
That's right, absolutely,
Yeah.
and that's the key to it. That's what
You got the
our
juice.
legislators were looking at, is saying that we want people that can make a decision who's going to really help move the organization forward.
And is that working
Yes.
well?
Oh, it works well.
Good.
The way that we're funded is a little different. We don't have a dedicated funding source.
Okay.
Our board members are really excited about getting dedicated funding, but with all things, timing is everything.
Right.
And also, when you're talking about taxable opportunities over 3 different counties, and each one may be in a different position based upon the particular taxing source that may be identified.
Right.
So this is not a process that you can just jump in and say we're going to do it.
Right.
You got to think this through.
Yes.
And so I think our board members have been, and our elected officials have been right to wait until they can make sure that they do something that's going to be good for all parties that's associated with it. So what they have been doing over the past 25, 30 years is basically pulling monies either from their gas tax that they generate or from their property tax and things of that nature. And we basically invoice them for hours of service that's generated within
their county.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And, and we all know that's not a sustainable model.
Yeah.
But when we put in our LYNX FORWARD solution, we're basically cleaning up how we're doing business to make sure that the system is as efficient as possible. And then we show our community how we can really grow the system so the entire community see a benefit of it. Then we think it's the right time to start talking to the community about we need better funding.
Right.
But you can't go out to the masses and saying that, well, we're going to elect to tax ourselves more, and we're not getting as much service as we would hope to.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to show them what they can get with this. So that's what our whole LYNX Forward program is about, and it gives our board members and our elected officials a tool by which that they can act on.
Okay.
Because we can't give them something, then they go out and get beat up by the public.
Right.
We're not being good stewards at that point to our board members and elected officials.
That's good. So what is your total budget on an annual basis?
Well, right now we're just under $140 million a year. Still a small organization.
That's a good, healthy budget,
It
though.
is.
Yeah.
It is. But we know that we could provide a lot more.
Yeah.
But if we had the funding. But first and foremost, we got to make sure that we are good stewards of what we have right now.
And by being a good steward, you've got a bunch of good projects coming up.
Yes.
So tell us about some of the cool things you do with college students and your limo service and your bus tracker and all that. Some of your new innovations.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, since I started back with LYNX back in March of 2016, and we've accomplished quite a bit. Number one, we put Wi-Fi on all of our buses.
Really?
Yes, and we have rolled out 4 mobile applications. One is a mobile fare payment system. Right now, it's operating off of a visual inspection.
Okay.
We will be putting validators on very soon, but we're working with our state DOT on this so it can tie back into the commuter rail system.
Okay.
Then secondly, we have our bus tracker system, and the customers really love that as well.
They can look at their phone and see right where the bus is.
That's right. So on a rainy day like this, they don't have to stand out at that bus stop.
Yes.
They can look at their phone and say, okay, now I can go out there and not get soaking wet. Also, we have our within our fixed route operation, we do have a demand response type system for areas where we really don't need a 40-foot bus to operate.
Okay.
And so we have a mobile app where you can schedule your trip, and then you can monitor the vehicle as it's on its way to pick you up. And that has been our precursor to roll out for our paratransit customers.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's almost like microtransit.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And then next, we have rolled out our See Something, Say Something app,
really
where people,
this.
can give us, they can take a picture or take a short video of something that's going on the bus that should not be taking place.
And where does that go? Who does that get reported
It goes back to our security office,
Okay.
and as soon as it comes up on the screen, our security team are going to call the local law enforcement entities and get them out dispatched immediately.
So if somebody's out taking your trash cans and dumping them over or vandalizing something,
absolutely.
they snap a picture,
Yeah,
you can have immediate response.
That's right.
And they don't have to call in and get
No, that's
Yes.
right. And they can send it, and you can put in the location. You can give as much information as you want. We can communicate back and forth, letting the customer know what we're doing. Yes, that is correct.
Wow. And is it used a lot?
You know what? Initially, we were getting all kinds of feedback, but it's starting to temper down now.
Okay.
But what we've found out, we did not receive any complaints about people acting inappropriately on the system.
Okay.
What we were getting was more about cleanliness of bus stops, which we want that.
Yeah.
And so we're making a concerted effort to make sure that we target certain areas.
That's good.
Because
you did that, all 4 of the things since you've been here?
Yes.
Man, that is big time.
Yeah. And, the thing is, when I first talk to the staff about these things, like, well, we can't do all of that. And I'm like,
yeah,
yes, you can.
That's a big bite to chew.
Yeah.
But
you
got
know
it
what?
done.
But when you know what you want to do,
Yeah.
and you understand how to have fun while you're doing it,
Right.
you can accomplish anything that you want.
That's
You
great.
know, and I believe in not putting blinders on. Let's be as creative. Let's have fun. Let's
Right.
enjoy what we do, and then it doesn't seem that bad.
That's good.
And most things that we do, certainly going forward, we will do a lot of the installation ourselves rather than having
Okay.
a vendor to do it,
Yeah.
because there are certain upcharges with
Sure,
that.
of course.
And I'm quite sure some of the listening audience don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But what we've got to do is manage the system.
Right.
You know, if the private sector can show us how they can help us meet those efforts and those costs, hey, we're glad to bring them on in, because we can be stretched a
Yeah.
little too far at times, and so, but at the same time, we have to look at how do we really manage the system, because as we talked about, our board, we got some really heavy hitters on our board of directors, and they look very closely at how we spend the dollar.
Yes. Well, one of the kind of unique, efficient ways I see that you're running transit, and it also helps get young people used to it, is offering
Yes.
free transportation to the university, and they
Yes.
fund it through like an annual contract. How does
Yes,
that work?
yes. So when I first went back to Orlando, I wanted to. Our goal was to establish partnerships
Yes.
throughout the entire metropolitan area, because I believe that LYNX cannot be successful without other entities being a part of us. And so we going out and saying we need dedicated funding, and you don't have anyone to help champion that,
Right.
you're not going to get very far. And so we needed to establish relationships with agencies in the community. So one of the things I felt is that if we can get a good partnership with our local university and colleges, then that's a very good first start, and then we can build off of that. So we went out to the University of Central Florida, also Valencia College and Seminole State College, and say, hey, if you give us $1 per student, we will allow them to ride our bus free for a full year.
$1 per student.
Yes.
Wow, that's a
And
deal.
You're right. And so when we the thing is that we're not doing anything different than what we were already doing. The buses are still going down the road. We're not at maximum capacity.
Right.
We're not.
So there's no additional fixed cost to do
That's
this.
right. There's and we know that there are some people at those institutions that are buying bus passes, but when you look at it in this holistic approach, we're generating a lot more revenue.
Yeah.
By getting that dollar per year per student. Plus, now we're attracting more people to us, and now we're getting more riders on board, and that adds to our ridership reporting to
Right.
NTD.
Well, and it gets
Yeah.
young people used to using public
That's right.
transit. That's
That's right.
wonderful.
Absolutely. And then
Yeah.
they can pass it on to
Right.
their children coming behind them.
Yeah.
But our local universities and colleges recognize that, hey, this is a small investment that can have a much larger return for them.
Absolutely.
Because
It's win-win.
less cars coming onto their campus means
Yep.
less parking that they have to build out and maintain.
Yeah.
And so when I talked to our CFO and a couple of staff members in our organization about this, they said, $1 a year? That's really cheap. We should be asking more. I said, we can't go in and chase them away from us.
Right.
We need to set this at a level that they cannot refuse it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And now they're advocates for you.
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
you had what's that book that says don't do any big decision for just one reason?
Right,
You
that's
have
right.
multiple reasons
That's
for that.
right, that's right.
Yeah.
And so one of the local colleges have now since come back to us and say, hey, we like the way that you're thinking. So we would like for you to design a shuttle service between our campuses, and certainly we will pay you to do that.
See that?
Yeah. And
So
so
it
it's really
has added benefits.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you don't open yourself up,
Yeah.
and say, here we are, this is how we can partner with you. And it keeps them not thinking about you and thinking about all the possibilities.
Right.
And we've even talked with one university about who operates their own transit system on campus. We're saying, let us manage that for you.
There you go.
You don't need to do that. Hey, we're not asking you, we're not going out trying to educate people.
Right.
So you don't need to try to transport people.
Yeah, that's
let
not
us
your
do
core
that.
competency,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so we've been in conversations with them about that, and we're looking for that to get off the ground soon.
So if I had to summarize kind of your approach to transit.
Yeah.
Would this be good? That it's fun. You want to be open to ideas and a willingness to try new things.
Absolutely.
That's
man,
wonderful.
you summed it up better than I could.
Well, that's great. So you've got a lot going on down here. What do you, in the last minute or two, what's next for you guys at LYNX in Orlando?
Well, we're partnering with the City of Orlando and our Metropolitan Planning Organization looking at autonomous vehicle operation.
Really?
We operate our downtown circulator called Limo.
Okay.
Roughly about 80% of it, to 80 to 85% of the operations actually operate in a fixed guideway environment. So we felt that would be a good starting point for autonomous vehicle operations. But we're not jumping right into the testing of vehicles.
Okay.
What we want to first look at is what are the needs to operate in that type of environment. So we want to know, what do we need to have in place from a back office standpoint? What do we need from a staffing standpoint? And then once we know the type of employees that we need in the organization,
cost ahead of time, right?
That's right. Then we can start looking at the actual service delivery models.
Okay.
But we don't want to jump into something and then we find that we've invested in the technology, and because technology rapidly changes.
Every 2 to 4 years,
yes. So we want to be able to have a clear vision on what direction we want to go in that's going to be sustainable for our community. And then we can say to the business community, this is the direction we want to go in. Now come in and give us a plan.
And it's very well thought out.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And so that will be one thing we're looking at. Then the other, we're looking at bus rapid transit on several corridors. And we've identified 2 corridors right now that each are a little over 20 miles apiece.
Okay.
And we're going to be looking to engage the private market to help finance that effort for us. So
a lot of people are looking at that now. Capital dollars are a little tight.
That's right.
Why not try some P3 models and things like that?
That's right. Yes. So we've
got it all going on, man.
Yeah, man. And you know what? And it's fun. And I tell you, our staff, our planning staff, our grant staff, our finance team, they're all just eating it up, and they're having fun. They're like, yeah, we can do this, we can do that.
Look forward to coming to work, right?
Yes, absolutely, and that's what we want. Yeah. But with all great things, that there are times, clashing of ideas.
Sure.
But as long as we don't have clashing of personalities, we can have clashing of priorities. We can fix that.
Yeah, and I can see with your leadership style, you probably don't have much of that. It's probably
no.
The best ideas bubble up.
Yes. Yeah. And so what is incumbent upon me now is making sure that I get the resources so we can implement these things and not get everybody all excited and say, okay, now we got to stop.
Right. What a great leader. Well,
yes, sir.
They're very, they're blessed to have you as a leader.
Well,
down
thank
here
you, sir.
in
Thank
Orlando.
you so very much.
I'm very excited about all the things you're doing, and we really appreciate you taking the time today to share
Absolutely.
with all of our
Thank you for
thousands of
having me.
listeners.
Yes, sir.
All the great things you're doing. I think it was a great education for everyone.
Yes, sir. Thank you
Edward
so very
Johnson,
much.
CEO
Yes, sir.
of LYNX here in Orlando.
You've been listening to Transit Unplugged, powered by Trapeze Group. To stay up to date, subscribe on iTunes or Google Play, or join the conversation at transitunplugged.com. Thanks for listening.